question I know a lot of people are asking during this pandemic is this the end times? Are we in the very last days of humanity as we know it? What would be your comment on that?
Yeah, I think us asking, is it the end times? Is it the end of the world? Is everything kind of going bad? Not only with the pandemic right now, but with climate change and a whole variety of different things. But for me, the question is, well, surely then during World War II, when almost every nation was at war with each other and the nuclear bomb was dropped, surely kind of that was the end times. We might think, well, surely during the Roman era, when suddenly the Romans got conquered and the whole thing fell apart, wasn't that the end times? And so you can look through times in history where things have been very, very dark and very, very difficult. And people might have thought this is the end times now. The danger is we can try and predict when it's going to be and try and spend our time and focus trying to work that out, rather than trying to work actually how do we live in this moment. And for me, rather than trying to work out how does the end times theology work perfectly, it's more about saying, what does Scripture say about how we live today? And for me, it's about living today in the light of eternity. So don't live thinking that, I've got many years left to come, because none of us know how long we've got left. It's about working out how do we live effectively in this time, pointing to a God who is actually bigger and greater than time itself. I really enjoyed over this time, I reread a book called The Rise of Christianity by Rodney Stark, who's written lots of the kind of sociological ideas around why the Christian faith grew. His big kind of question is this, is how did this obscure Jewish sect become right across the Roman Empire in just a couple of hundred years? What took place to make this happen? And one of the whole chapters is actually all about pandemics, and he explains that there were 2 or 3 major pandemics during the Roman Empire times. And they were so intense, way beyond what we're experiencing now. Up to maybe a third of the population died. Just horrendous things took place during these pandemics. And yet at these times, the church grew. And they grew for a couple of reasons. First of all, they grew because they really took seriously this command to love one another. And at that time, obviously, if you're a child or you're a woman, you're almost second class. But Jesus teaches us to love each person equally. And the church did this at these times, therefore the church grew. The church also welcomed people into their community. When they lost their friends, they lost their family, the church welcomed them in. But thirdly, the church had a theology that was much bigger than God is sending this upon us right now. It was a theology that said there's a bigger story unfolding. And this is a moment where actually we know this is not the end, because actually God is much bigger than this. And we haven't got to fear death. And when you begin to grasp that sense of this bigger story, it helps you to live really well in the now. So I'd be very wary about trying to guess, is it the end times now or not? But more importantly for me is this, is actually what is God saying to me as an individual now and to us as a church now about how we are to be. And I think at this time, there's a real challenge for the church to be really compassionate. As the church loved one another back all those years ago, how can we as a church today really show compassion to each other, but also to the community around us? And I think if we do this effectively, we can really see a real advance of the gospel, people coming to faith and discovering more of who God is. I've been some work across London, and it's been interesting bringing together different church unity groups where churches are working collaboratively in a borough to serve their borough. And it's amazing how many tens of thousands of meals a week are being produced by churches to serve those who are struggling right now. It's been amazing to see many of the Christian NHS frontline workers who are prayerfully kind of going into that place to be vulnerable, but for the gospel, and they see that as part of their mandate as Christians. It's been amazing to see the generosity of many Christians actually giving beyond what's comfortable, and rather than just kind of saving in this moment, saying, actually, how can I be generous with what I have and give to those who are struggling right now? So I'm encouraged that actually in this time, the church can be compassionate because we're part of a bigger story, and we have a God who does not change. And whether these are the end times or not, I want to know that I live for Christ in this moment, in this day.
Brilliant. That's so good. That's so good. And the only thing I can add to that is I'm always reminded of Jesus' words in the Gospels, which he says he'll come like a thief in the night, in a sense that we don't know when that will be. Yes, of course, we're closer to the end times than we were in 1990, because, that's, 30 years on. So, of course, we are closer to the end times, but whether that's 10 years or 100 years or 1,000 years, I don't think we know. But, we want to be ready, and we want to live each day, as you said, as if it is the last, as if it is our last opportunity to love people and proclaim the gospel and, live each day as if it was the last.
Mm. Yeah, it's good. I think the early Christians, the early church, often thought maybe the end times are very, very soon, and perhaps, you know, so much persecution they encountered, perhaps this was the end. But actually, we're here, still here, 2,000 years on. So
Yeah,
it hasn't
yeah,
come yet. So let's just get on with what God's called us to do.
yeah, yeah. Amen.
Hmm.